So in today's episode of Perfiles, you're going to get to meet David Damian Figueroa, who is a filmmaker, a social justice worker, activist, and also a humanitarian border aid volunteer. And I am honored to have this opportunity to get to know your humanitarian side. We're here in Sasabe, the border along the U.S Mexico border, one of the most dangerous areas in southern Arizona, probably ground zero for migrants crossing.
¿Necesitan ayuda? Somos amigos. Well, actually, I'm relatively new at the volunteering side of the humanitarian work. I've been out here for 2 years. The majority of the volunteers that are out here have like some decades, 2 decades doing this. So I'm very much a student, but I'm a fast study. So I've been out here many times doing the work and filming. We're on our third film. The first one is the documentary called Shura. Second one is the Crossman, which talks about
Alvaro Enciso.
Alvaro Enciso, who is he's responsible for putting like 1,700 crosses. He's an artist, so he makes these beautiful crosses, and he memorializes migrants that have died out in this desert, and in pursuit of the American dream. But it's that the American dream was never intended for Mexicans. It was never intended for Chinese, Black folks. It was just not for us. So, we are the ones that really get suffer the most out here in the desert, trying to cross in pursuit of the American dream. Right here where we're at, almost exactly a year ago, it snowed. Can you believe in the desert it snows? And right here at the border, like you said, it's the deadliest land crossing. We're almost 32 miles east of Sasabe, and thousands and thousands of people have died back here.
So this new purpose in your life, this mission that you have, is saving lives of migrants who will want to make it to the United States and seeking a better life.
Yes, it has to do a lot with safety. You know that the majority of the guns that travel into Mexico come from gun manufacturers in the United States, and we know that that all of that is meant to drive people to funnel them into this deadly area. And so, the thing is that the majority of the drugs pass through the ports of entry. Yeah, they say like 85%. The amount of undocumented migrants crossing through the port of entry are about 85%. So the vast majority passes through those port of entries and not necessarily through the wall.
Human trafficking is probably the most lucrative for all these cartels as well. Correct?
Yes. So right here, when people cross the border right up here where we're going to stop, they do so and they're held up there until they can pay up, sometimes paying up to $15,000 per person, or they call it per head. And a lot of that money is paid through American.
The efforts from their families who are sending their money, yes, to make so they can cross the border and reunite with them.
And they're paid through like Cash App, Zelle, Venmo, and that. So it's all that technology. Had that technology didn't exist, it'd have to be like dollars, but it passes through. Once they pay, then they can cross this point or here at the wall. And so as you can see, during the Biden administration, there were like 21 gaps, maybe 22. So let's say for sure 21 gaps. And people would cross through, and these were very much where animals would cross through as well. This is like an environmental disaster because there's a lot of animals that can't get through, or the animals die, or get stuck in the wall here.
So, earlier this week, I was able to also accompany you along with the group of Samaritans that you work and volunteer with to Nogales, Sonora. We're going to get to see that also during this episode. And here we are, and we're approaching the border wall. It is so imposing. And this is also one of your sets for your film, Shura.
So right here, almost a year ago, when it was snowing, we came across two young men, probably 18, 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They were like right here, and they were literally shivering with hyperthermia because it was so cold. They only had, like what we're wearing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we gave them Marlar blankets and hot chocolate and things like that. But they were just, it was so sad to see them. They had never ever seen snow before. They were like perplexed about what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people that come from very small villages that are isolated,
Mm-hmm.
but they're coming over here because they're escaping violence in their countries.
Prosecution. I mean,
We find everybody here. This past year, people from Sudan, from Bangladesh, Punjabi,
mm-hmm.
India, Russia, uh, just all the countries. They were just, and of course, all the Latin American countries, all the Central American countries, and of course, a lot from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much violence in Mexico.
Yeah.
And so people are escaping all of that. And so, people sometimes say in the United States, I would never put my family through that. I would never put my children through that. And I always say to them, you've never been put in a position to have to make that decision.
And the
So,
desperate also economic situation in their countries that makes them or forces them to leave because there's no ways to make ends meet.
right.
So they come here, for a better life. Um, I would like for you to expand about uh, Shura. I know you're working on a long format movie.
So we did Shura, which is a short documentary. It's about a 27-minute long film, and it's a short. We toured the country with that, and then now we're getting ready to do the same with Crossman. It's the story of Alvaro and Ciso.
Okay.
That's also a short, but we just completed the full-length documentary, which pretty much uh, documents the whole of last year when we had
The asylum seekers, the peak of the asylum seekers.
thousands and thousands of asylum seekers, and we worked up and down this wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, a particular, a filmmaker per se.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of a storyteller because if we're filming and I see someone who is in desperate need of something, I'm going to stop filming and I'm going to help them. So it's very different than. But these hills that we're crossing, they range from 3 stories to 23 stories along the 32 miles. And we saw people that walking these roads here with no shoes in the snow, barefoot. And then we also saw people walking in chanclas or like flip-flops, and just people with worn out shoes on the bottom of their soles. And
and what drives you to be a humanitarian? I know that in your past life, you've received many accolades, and now you're in Arizona. The reason that I met
I'm back home.
You're back home. I actually met David Damian in LA, Los Angeles, when he used to work as a VP for Maldives. And I used to invite him because I used to be a producer booker for CNN Latino Sin Límites, and you would be there as a guest. And when I found out that you were here, and I saw your social media, and you were creating your film, working on Shura actually, and I thought I need to reach out to you, see what you're up to. So now I'm getting to discover this side of you, and it's very admirable what you do.
Oh, thank you.
It's very selfless. I got to see you in Nogales, Sonora, feeding the people in need, giving a hug to a little kid, or even a lady that is in desperate situation. It was harsh also to listen to these stories in Nogales where people were given an appointment, for the 21st of January, not because of the new Trump administration. On the 20th, he took power, and everything has been stalled, or maybe it's not
canceled.
Even canceled.
All of the appointments are canceled, and there's people that spent their life savings or asked families to get together in villages to bring them to this point because they in particular might be LGBTQ plus and being persecuted or for a variety of reasons, religious persecution. Some people are persecuted for the darkness of their skin, the lightness of their skin in whatever country they're in. And so rumors can get started in these villages about people that are not true, and then that causes someone to be persecuted and to have to leave as well. So there's a variety of reasons why people have to leave. One of the main reasons that people leave is hunger.
Yeah.
People are hungry, and they're going to do anything they can to make sure that their children eat. There's also climate change. Climate change is very, very real throughout the
Yeah,
world,
there's
and
not enough
there's
water in a lot of these areas, and there's no crops to, to pick up and eat.
right, exactly. And so, I just always, I would like, if anything, if anybody's watching, they're on the fence about, migrants and what their role is in the United States, I think we have to acknowledge that we in the United States are addicted to cheap labor,
Mhm,
and that our economy thrives on cheap labor. Just to be honest about it, and that we really need to show appreciation for the hard work
mhm,
that the migrant does, the immigrants do in this country, to be able to, for us to be able to afford the groceries at the price that we can
mhm.
purchase them at. And we also have to, start to really appreciate the idea that if people that are migrants leave this country, it's going to change the dynamics of how we as Americans live the American dream,
Yeah.
because it's all about
I mean,
consumerism.
migrants are the ones who built this wall, probably.
Yep.
Our highway infrastructure, our homes. They're the ones who pick the crops in the fields,
Yes.
and they're the ones who also clean a lot of the places that we work or we live at.
So if you look at this wall, it costs, if you look all the way, it costs billions and billions of dollars. These roads here, combined with all of that, the security, the construction company, all of the industries that are part of building this wall, all have a migrant component, an
Hmm.
undocumented migrant component.
Yeah, and talking about um, the importance of migrants in the food that we eat, uh, one of the other films, Harvest,
Yes, I worked on that film as well.
and it also, it also food chain.
Food chains as well. That's about
Okay,
migrants.
and it's currently available in streaming platform,
Yes,
correct?
exactly. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what is next for David Damian? What are you doing? Is it going to be more related to everything to do with the border?
Um, well, I think what's next for me in this coming year is to finish the films that we have done and start taking those on the road. I have a platform that we're creating called "The Truth About Migrants and the Border: Stories of Humanity and Hope." It is like in a presentation that I've been giving at universities across the country, and when we finish the last full-length feature, it'll be like a trilogy. So it gives you different perspectives. The perspective of an 80-year-old woman that's out here.
Hmm.
This is extreme volunteering.
Yeah.
As we go further down the wall, we don't know what we're ever going to encounter, but on this side of the wall,
Hmm.
on the other side of the wall, we encounter cartel that have machine guns,
Oh, wow.
and then we, have vigilantes that are out here at times, a good often amount of times, and they have machine guns and semi-automatic weapons, and we have the border patrol who have some semi-automatic weapons, the travelers, and so it's not. It's not necessarily safe at
Yeah.
times.
No.
And what we have as volunteers, we have food and water, and so um, there's a different, a dichotomy in what they're out here to do and what we're out here to do. And make no mistake, we're out here to save lives, and this organization has saved thousands. Los Samaritanos have saved thousands and thousands of lives. ¿Y ya tienen agua? Agua sí. ¿Ya tienen agua? ¿Qué? No, nomás comida. ¿Y cuántos días tienen sin comer? No, 2 días nomás. 2 días nomás, es bastantes días, muchos días. Si te voy a pasar todo eso, lo puedes poner en la caja y lo puedes cargar así, ¿ok? Es que ahorita no sé. In pursuit of their American dream, if they're deported, at least we know that they were able to live, which is, human life is very, very valuable. And I think that as we keep moving forward, in society, through social media, through the
Hmm.
newspapers, through television and news, and it's all designed to demonize the migrant. And we haven't really taken a good look as what causes people to move, to really want to uproot themselves from everything that they know.
Hmm.
The average person would never want to do that. And they have to leave because they have to leave. And so, in the United States, we have this insatiable appetite for drugs,
Yeah.
and we're the biggest consumer of any consumer group in the world for drugs. And so, because um, we demand it, they supply it.
Hmm.
And the same thing with guns. We have to start to take honest look at all of that.
Yeah.
And in order for the flow to stop coming in, we have to make sure that that we prepare, that find out the root cause, but also we need to develop a humane immigration process. A guest worker program that allows people to come in and work for those that want to come in and work, and for those that want to go back seasonally to do this work.
And you used to do this work with your family along Arizona, throughout
Arizona, yes.
throughout Arizona when you were young.
When we were young, we were migrant workers, but in the state of Arizona.
Got it.
Yeah, from Yuma all the way to Arcagila, Arlington, Buckeye, Arizona, Marana and Tucson, and then over in Wilcox area. And then we do it all over again,
Okay.
but mainly in Buckeye, Arizona. Yeah. A lot of times migrants will come here in the middle of the night, and then we'll find them. Like we leave Green Valley, Arizona about 4 in the morning, and then we come here about 5:30 in the morning. Here's another one. Because at night it's freezing at night, so we want to make sure that we leave blankets in here to make sure that everybody is. You want to see inside? And the volunteers come and make sure everything is, kept up, clean. If you notice that along the road, you'll notice that there's no trash, and that's because a lot of the Samaritans pick up trash. Okay. And then over here we'll light the fires, right? So that people can keep warm. And then the border patrol comes here like around 7:30 in the morning, and they pick up whoever's here. Then they come around at 2 o'clock, which is 2 o'clock now, where we saw them just a moment ago. So they're waiting to see if anybody's going to cross. And before you could ask for asylum, and we know now that that's canceled. So, oiga, ahí les dejé agua y comida. Pueden venir por él. ¿Me escucharon? ¿Cuántas personas hay ya?
Pues en el grupito no sabemos 7.
¿Hay niños?
Sí, hay uno.
¿Hay uno? ¿Niño o niña?
Niño. ¿De qué edad? 10 años.
Tengan mucho cuidado.
¿Todos son de Guatemala?
No, hay de Honduras.
Tengan mucho cuidado.
Okay. Gracias.
Enhorabuena.
Watch out, these have stickers. So there's a red cross over here. Do you see that red cross? So you can imagine somebody, let's say, came from Guatemala or whoever. I don't really know the story behind this cross, but what I can tell you is there were a lot of sacrifices made for that person to get through here, make it this far, after months and months and months of saving money and heartache and travel and the suffering that one has when they're on the other side of that wall, to make it this far and then to die right there. It's a tragedy. And their story ends right there. So it's like, the whole idea of us coming out here is that so something like that does not happen. So even if there's people across over there, we want to ask them, have you eaten? Have you had water to drink? Are there children there? And as you can see, there's one child there in a group of 7. The trauma that child is experiencing here in the desert. Most people in America will never experience that. So we want people to know that that person right there is a human being with feelings, with hopes, with dreams, and their parents are coming over here in pursuit of that American dream. So, but this person over here was trying to do the same thing, and that's where their dream ended. It's just really sad. So.
cierre, ¿te fijas? I think that's the best ending you can have. Well, I am very grateful to you for your time, for the accessibility that you've given me in Tavo, my colleague and my friend who's been able to document all this great work that you're doing as a volunteer. I thank you for that. Anything else you would like to add to get across or convey to audiences?
I just would like people to open up their minds and to have, the thing about human beings is to have compassion for people and what they're going through, because when we're going through something, we want to be afforded that same compassion. And so it works both ways. And in the United States, where we take for granted that we might not go through, we may be going through a climate change. We may be going through something very catastrophic in the United States, and we may have to go this way.
South.
We may have to go across this border,
Yeah.
and we'll maybe get a taste of what we deplore in the migrant coming this way. So you never know. Life has, like they say, twists and turns.
Yes.
And right now we're in a society and a world and a time where there are a lot of twists and turns, with the fires in LA, to the political climate, to
It's like
just.
apocalyptic. No, it seems like we're like watching a movie.
But I think the one thing that, John, the one thing that really I think is most important is that there's always hope. There's always hope as long as people are willing to show compassion towards each other. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be not only to save people, but also to show examples of how you really treat your brothers and sisters. And that's what we're trying to do.
And everybody as a human being has a right to get to move forward, to progress in this and to have a better life.
Yeah, everybody has a right to work, to eat, to have a place to live, clothes, water, just basic things, and we can do that. We are a very, very abundant society in the United States. We can afford to share. That's why we're doing our documentaries, because we want to be able to spend the time here and really, really invest in what the migrant struggle. And people come out here to take a photo against this wall.
Yeah.
They come here to film it, and then they go home.
No, but what you and the group Samaritans that you volunteer with, it's what you're doing is impacting tremendously the lives of many of those people that are probably in their last, they don't even have strength to walk anymore, and you give them a little bottle of water and they're like, okay, keep going.
As you know, this morning we stopped at a store right as we were entering the desert, and there was a man there, and I said, stop, because you start to become more attuned to what's out there. You start to look for things that, I don't know, I saw this man, and I said, stop, and we stopped, and this man hadn't eaten in 5 days. Yeah. He hadn't had any water in 5 days, and
he was so grateful.
And we gave him the supplies he needed, and a little bit of money and a blanket, and it was cold, and so that's what you do. I mean, we have to be prepared to do that, because if we were ever in that position, we would want that to be them to show the same mercy. But I also think that God is watching, Dawn.
What you give, you'll get back some way or another.
Yeah. My mom said, God is watching. Mira, he sees everything. Or she sees everything.
Yeah, she probably is. She's probably, mira, mi hijo, qué bien, que está bien.
No, I'm just talking about God. God could be a female.
Yeah.
I
thought your mother.
I know that's
I thought your mother too. Like,
well, my mom too. My mom is watching.
She's like probably an angel saying, mira, mi hijito, que, or feeling very proud of you.
Yeah, the voices, I say the voices, the loudest voices we hear after our parents are gone is their voice. Do this, do that, ayuda a tu hermano, that kind of thing. So those are very prevalent, those are very loud in our, so we always want to make our mother proud, and so even after they're gone, so hopefully she's watching. I'm sure she is.
Well, I congratulate you. It's so humbling to get to know this side of you. As I said, I met you in LA, and I remember you receiving awards, and I know that you said, I discarded all my awards, Dawn. This is a different life. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. So I it's admirable, everything that you do here.
Well, I discarded all the awards because I felt like, those are reference points of another life, and we get awards at the time for what we're doing. But the real reward is that we're out here we're out here being able to help other people. That's the real reward.
So it's more fulfilling than anything to help another human being in need.
Yeah, I think when you go home and you go home at night and you put your head on the pillow, you know that you spent the day trying to help people. In many cases, you've saved the lives of people and strangers, and that's what we're supposed to be doing, I think. And a lot of times in life, not everybody is able to come out here, but if you go to work, you may go to someone and you may make a difference in their life by being kind, by being compassionate and hearing that person. So it's not necessarily, everyone's not everyone's capable of coming out here. Not everybody wants to, but we can be kind and passionate and loving to people right where we're at. And anybody who wants to help migrants, you can do it right in your community. As you know, there's migrant centers all across the country now, and they need us.
Yeah,
they really do. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
this amazing interview, or actually just access to witness everything you do, and also. For me, it's very nice to see your evolution as a professional, because I also know that you've been a publicist and you've done amazing work with all the organizations that you work or artists that you represented. And
I think this is the most important work I've done. So I really feel like this is where it's at for now. Thank you.
Until next episode, this is David Damian Figueroa. Muy agradecida. Y bueno, enhorabuena with everything. I'm going to stay tuned to see everything that you document here and all the great stories that you're going to be telling soon in all your upcoming films.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hasta luego.
Okay. The wind feels great, huh?
Huh?